Give us a shout in the chat if let me know who's in. And also, can you hear? Hello there, Tallulah. What a lovely name. Also, could you let me know if my microphone is at a decent level, please? Hello, Happy Mac. Good afternoon, Poor Pizza Dave. Oh, some cracking names here. Karen, you're back. Hello again. Sorry about yesterday. The Gert 100, like that. Excellent, thank you. Just give it a couple of minutes. I'm absolutely dying to actually get out in the garden and do some gardening at the moment. Still snow on the ground here in Nova Scotia, so not a lot to be done. I'm going to get in the greenhouse tomorrow. Who have we got here? Sam the man, hello there. AJ, hello. Who have I missed? No one? Happy Mac? This is my first ever live on Instagram. Not Instagram, we're on YouTube. On YouTube, I'm very excited, actually. It's good to see all the bits. Oh, Bucko. What, Bucko? If it is Bucko, all right, me old China. How you doing? Nice one. Nice to see you, Bucko. Couldn't get away from my dulcet tones, eh? Give me another minute, guys, and we're going to get into the reading, I think. Like I said, snow on the ground here, still cold and horrible. Really looking forward to getting a bit of gardening done. So this book, then, we might as well make a start. This book, what is it, about nearly 2 years ago? I can't believe it is so long ago. I found out that I had throat cancer. Bit of a lump came up on the side of my neck. Found out, went through all the machinations and decided as I was going through, excuse me, that I would sort of do a bit of a diary, like, you know, if I made it through the end anyway. And so I did a bit of a chronicle as I went through, and here, this is the sort of the end of that chronicle, the book. I'm going to read the sort of part of the first chapter. Should be about 20 minutes. Depends how bored you get. Just give me a shout if you want me to stop at some point. But this book, so I wrote the book and I've dedicated the book to that beautiful, feisty, badgering, caring Mrs. F, i.e. my wife, Sarah, who looked after me, supported me all the way through this, at times, rather tricky process of getting better. So I'll just read the foreword. And before I start, the book is out now, available in Amazon online worldwide. And you know, all the different Amazons, whether it be Amazon.com, Amazon.co.uk, in Australia, in the Netherlands, all over the place, Canada, obviously. And it is, the paperback is $11.49 US, so obviously less in English, a little bit more in Canadian. And the ebook is available $8.99 US, £6.90, and a bargain $9.99 Canadian. So, without further ado, the foreword. So, this book chronicles my cancer journey through the shock of diagnosis, the sometimes tortuous path of cancer treatment, and how I believe the medicinal properties of gardening, both psychologically, physiologically, and using that most important quality of a gardener, optimism, helped me through this painful time. I'm no medical expert, and I don't pretend to give any medical advice in this book, but I hope to give you a general idea of what you will go through in your own journey. You know, if you're unlucky enough to get throat cancer, or sort of many of the different cancers, unfortunately, and you know, even if it won't exactly match mine. I've also included some stories from my past life as a sailor in the Royal Navy, I included these stories to show how they also helped to shape the way I approached my journey, the way I thought, and it helped me a great deal, these different sort of techniques of thinking, or not thinking as the case may be. Most importantly, I hope to be able to inspire you to look forward with that little bit of optimism and fortitude that the gardener needs if they wish to come through a season in the garden with all the trials and tricks Mother Nature has in store. Chapter 1. What did you say? 17th of September 2020. So a bit of surprise with the results, and unfortunately not a nice one. I'm afraid there were some cancerous cells in the results. The words that can never be unsaid. I'm afraid there were some cancerous cells. The 17th of September 2020, the date that will always be remembered. 53 years old. So much to look forward to. Years of new adventures with my fantastic family. A 10-year-old son. A growing YouTube audience. A new business about to launch. And a grand new greenhouse to build. But essentially, I've been handed a potential death sentence. These are all the things that go through my mind when I hear these words. I first noticed the lump in my neck in July 2020, I think. Not exactly sure if it came up in a day or over a few days, but I just suddenly noticed a lump around my lymph glands on the right side of my neck. I did the usual bloke thing of, I'll just give it a few days, probably nothing. I ended up leaving it a good couple of weeks. It hadn't gone down, so I mentioned it to my wife, Sarah, who immediately got all fired up and worried, which is exactly what I didn't want. But obviously, in hindsight, I'm glad she did. I booked in to see my local GP for the next week. The doc was non-committal on what it could be, but sends me off with a blood requisition form. Unfortunately, because of COVID, I couldn't go to my local pharmacy. So I had to book an appointment for in a few weeks' time at a pharmacy a few miles away, about 15 minutes drive on my way towards Halifax. Approximately 2 weeks later, my doc has the results. Quite quick, actually, for here. He says it's infectious mononucleosis, or kissing disease. There's no treatment for it, and I may have it for a few weeks. Seriously? I've been married 13 years. I don't even do any kissing anymore. He goes on to explain, you can get it through kissing, but you can also be exposed by sharing a glass or food utensils with someone who has mono. But there's something that makes him not totally convinced in what he's telling me. So he books me in to see an ear, nose and throat, ENT specialist in Dartmouth, a Dr. Smith. So another 3 or 4 weeks go by, worrying, Mrs. F really worrying. And I get to see the ENT specialist, Dr. Smith, as I mentioned. Firstly, I get to see his nurse, a friendly young lady who asks me a few questions. And then in comes the doc, who examines me, is very reassuring and says he doesn't believe it's anything cancerous, but he's going to take a biopsy anyway, just to be sure. Dr. Smith then uses a hideously big needle, which he sticks in my neck 3 times to take some samples. I don't mind telling you, it was an extremely eye-wateringly, not very nice experience. It literally felt like he was scraping parts of the lump out. Not nice at all. I leave with his reassurances that he doesn't think it's cancerous, which leads on to that fateful day, September 17th, 2020. Post Dr. Smith's "I'm afraid" statement, I leave his office in a bit of a daze. As I get in the car, I receive a text almost immediately from Sarah asking me to phone her to let her know the results. I'm dreading this. Sarah doesn't deal with bad news very well. I know she's going to fire a million questions at me that I don't want to answer at this minute. I phone her and give her the good news. Obviously, it doesn't go down well, and the million questions come my way. I bat most of them away and tell her we'll talk about it when I get back. The trip is, excuse me, fuck. Is that me done for now? Am I destined to spend the next few years in a futile battle against the most pernicious of diseases, constantly in and out of hospital, getting injected with one poison or another. At least I haven't got any hair to lose. Before leaving Dr. Smith's office, he gave me a rundown of the next steps I will go through. He's going to book me in with Dr. Rigby, an ENT surgeon over at the QE2 hospital in Halifax. He tells me that if there's any surgeon in Canada, it's Dr. Rigby's hands he would want me to be in for something like this. I will likely have a CAT scan to further pinpoint where the tumour is, and Dr. Rigby will decide whether I need surgery, etc. Still in a bit of a daze, I run through my meeting with Dr. Smith with Sarah. As expected, she starts up the million questions routine again, many of which I don't have an answer for. I tell her I've had enough of talking about it for the minute. I'm going to do some work in the garden. Sarah goes off to inform her CEO and immediate boss about my diagnosis. They are both very understanding and pull her off a project she is about to start on that would have taken a lot of her time, and I retreat to the garden. The garden is my sanctuary, my favourite place to be. I've always loved gardening, ever since I was a child. It's not that we ever had a nice garden when I was a kid, or my parents grew vegetables or anything like that. My mum, though, often took my little sister Helen and I on visits to stately homes or parks, and I always loved walking around the grand gardens and the beautiful trees that would have been planted by some Victorian philanthropist. I loved the shapes of the cedar trees in Heathfield Gardens near where I was brought up in New Addington, on the edge of London, or walking around the walled vegetable garden at Hampton Court. I was always into anything to do with nature, and even though we were on the edge of London, our council estate was surrounded by green space. A council estate, for you guys who don't know, is a sort of public housing in the UK. Whether it be the golf course across the road, the cornfields at the bottom of the estate, or the woods down another edge. Myself, Helen, and the twins next door, Janice and Tracy, and other kids from our bit of Addo, as New Addington was called, would spend all summer exploring, catching lizards, snakes, and slow worms, or sneaking through the golf course looking for golf balls to sell back to the golfers if we could, for a bit of extra pocket money. As soon as I bought my first place in Helston, Cornwall, I set about creating a garden. Cornwall is a gardener's dream. Situated in the far southwest of England, it's kissed by the Gulf Stream, and therefore has very mild winters, hardly ever having much of a prolonged frost, and mild, though not red hot summers. It also rains quite a bit. So you can grow all sorts of semi-hardy, subtropical looking plants. And if you're ever down that way, gardens like Treba and Glendurgan are magnificent, with tree ferns aplenty and all sorts of tropical looking plants that make everything look so green and lush. Back in the garden, I go around the veg patch and see what's ready to harvest. Excuse me. We are just about over peak harvesting season in the garden, and there is always even a possibility of a frost just around the corner. But all the same, the veg garden is bursting with produce ready to harvest. Even just for the short period of my walk around, this cheers me up. The various tomato plants are firing out juicy fruit left, right and centre at the moment, and my runner bean tunnel is also doing fantastically well, with lots of runner beans and also purple beans that I've mixed in. Even though everything is throwing lots of fruit out now, it's good practice to keep the plants fed, and I make up a bit of a liquid fertilizer mix. And as I go around checking the plants, I give them some feed. I am a fully organic gardener, so I use a liquid seaweed feed that I make myself. The bimble around the garden inspecting my plants soothes my mind a little, and I return to Sarah's questioning with a calmer mind, even though I have 1,000,001 questions myself. Thursday, 24th of September 2020. Sarah and I go to see Dr. Rigby, head and neck surgeon at the QE2 hospital in Halifax. We wait in the waiting room, surrounded by, frankly, ill, grey-looking people, mostly older looking than me. I fill out a form checklist. Have I felt any shortness of breath? No. Have I felt lightheaded? No. Blah, blah, blah. After I filled it out, I think, blimey, am I actually ill? Looking at the answers, I feel pretty in good nick. After I filled it, my name is called, and we are led to a small consulting room. First, a young trainee doctor, Alison, red-haired and slim, pleasant manner, a bit of a fox actually, even in a mask. She comes in and asks us if we have understood why we are here. Sarah jumps straight in and gives a detailed account from her notes of what has happened so far. Alison's early, confident smile in her eyes wavers a touch, and she looks at Sarah with an early inkling in her eyes of, ooh, I've got a right one here. Then Sarah fires off a ton of questions, and Alison's look turns from a keen young doctor to one more of a rabbit in the headlights. Alison escapes this interrogation by managing to get some questions fired off to me and physically checking the lump in my neck. Then she leaves to get the main man. 5 minutes later, Dr. Rigby then sweeps in with what seems like half the hospital in tow. There's Alison, back for more pressure from Sarah, the original nurse from earlier, who stands close beside Sarah, and a couple of randoms who aren't introduced. One has a box which holds, I think, the dreaded thingy camera on a flexible line like the one Dr. Smith stuck up my nose the other day. Dr. Rigby is a tall and gangly looking fella with dark rings around his eyes, like he's been up all night. The big doc repeats the question of, do we know why we're here? Yes, get on with it. Doc describes the CAT scan results, which I had been for a week before. They're inconclusive. The doc then gets straight into torturing me with various different ways to stick his fingers down my throat, describing what he is finding to us. Not a lot, but probably mostly aimed at Alison, rabbit in the headlights. I only gag a few times, but he has caused some serious watering of my eyes. Then out come the secret contents of the box. Aha, it is the camera. The young random fires it up, and Doc takes the dangly bit and sticks it up my right nostril. Breathe in. Although not the worst thing's ever happened to me, it's a particularly uncomfortable feeling and a sort of scratchy tickle. All the time he's giving commentary. You marvel that he's looking down my throat via a nostril, hoping he doesn't find anything really bad, but at the same time hoping he finds something he can easily fix. He doesn't find anything obvious as the primary cause of the growths. I'll come back to the commentary at the end of the book. He doesn't find anything obvious as the primary cause of the growths that have appeared on my lymph nodes and have caused the swelling, which is likely the secondary tumour. But he's pretty confident he knows the area it's likely to be. We're going to get you a PET scan. This should give me a better idea of where the primary is. So to explain the primary-secondary thing, apparently the lump has come up on the right side of my throat. It's a cancerous growth, the secondary, that is a reaction to the primary growth, which is somewhere else, as the lymph glands act as a filter. The primary growth is somewhere in my mouth or throat, but where? He explains that the tumour is highly likely in these cases to be in the tonsils. It's minuscule, hence why it's not being picked up on the scan. He then goes on to describe the success of overcoming this throat cancer. 95%, he reckons, decent odds, and how they go about getting rid of it. Surgery is his main preferred way, cutting out the lymph nodes affected, some or all of the tonsils, and a bit of the back of my tongue. That's a bit concerning. He lets me know the risks, that I'll be in hospital to 3 to 5 days and that my throat will be extremely painful for a few weeks after that. Excuse me. And I'll hate him for quite a few weeks after I wake up from surgery. Oh, you bet I did. Then there is a 70% chance that I will require radiation therapy every day for 6 weeks, starting a month or so after I've had the op. All in all, other than them saying it was all a mistake and I didn't have cancer, I suppose it went well. It's apparently stage 1. 95% of the time it's curable, and chemotherapy wasn't mentioned. The doc forecasts that he will be able to operate on me within 4 to 6 weeks. Gulp. First, they want to carry out a PET scan to better pinpoint where the primary source of the cancer is. He then leaves with his retinue sweeping out after him, taking the optical torture machine with him. A patient navigator then comes in. She will be the communication link between us and the team. She goes through a load of explanations, and Sarah goes into question overdrive again, which is good, but also slightly annoying sometimes. We're given a book about how to tell your child about a family member with serious illness. Frankly, I'm bored with it all now. I just want to get right out of here, and I'm dying for a pee. I'm also thinking, right, if I've got around 6 weeks until the op, then I should be able to get my new greenhouse built. And then there is a sly voice in the back of my brain saying, what's the point of building the greenhouse? I'm probably going to be dead in a year anyway. Fuck off is my reply. Excuse my language. The meeting has, I believe, helped Sarah immensely. She has a list to generate and a name she can badger, poor bastard, to get any information that she needs. I'm not denigrating this at all. I do get annoyed at Sarah's OTT organising and often make a joke of it. If we're getting ready for going on a holiday, Sarah will have the case she's taking mostly packed on the bedroom floor about 3 weeks before we're about to go. She starts Christmas shopping for our Ethan in the summer and planning Halloween costumes in August. I know that this is going to be immensely helpful when things start to happen in the next few weeks, so I let her crack on. On the journey back, we decide not to tell Ethan straight away about the cancer or even the surgery. Sarah wants to, but he's only 10 and doesn't handle bad news or the possibility of something bad happening very well. What's the point in burdening him with this information now, weeks before anything is going to happen? It's not like he can do anything about it. I go through the process of telling my brothers and sisters, my parents are both dead, of my diagnosis, all of them obviously shocked. I have a work meeting as soon as I get back, and I manage to get through that okay. But I just want to get out into the garden and not think about anything other than the task I'm doing at that moment. Yesterday, having been post-tropical storm Teddy, there is a fair bit of devastation around the garden, and although not as much as there might have been, we've been lucky. Plants can be very robust. The runner beans were wiped out by the frost we literally had a day or so ago, and the sunflowers have all been knocked down by the wind. Out in the garden, it's almost as if I haven't been told that I have the big C. Again, my worries, if not completely disappear, then at least recede into the back of my mind as I concentrate on the tidying up tasks, pruning and gathering up, relaxing my mind. I know that psychologically it is the garden that is going to help me through this nightmare. It's a proven fact that gardening or being in the garden naturally reduces stress. Studies have been carried out, and just looking at non-man-made objects like trees will lower your cortisol levels, and cortisol is the main hormone involved in stress. So even having houseplants dotted around the house can relax you and help you to reduce stress. Over the weekend, there is a lot of thinking and talking with Sarah when Ethan is in bed. It would be very easy to surrender to the feelings of unfairness that keep trying to take over my mind. Why me? Etc., etc. I don't believe in God anymore. Haven't for years. And frankly, I felt quite liberated, freed by it. And this just confirms my thoughts. Why would any compassionate God inflict this on anyone? I do like to think that I hold Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever you call it, values. Most importantly, treat those how you wish to be treated yourself and help those that are less fortunate than yourself. If you keep those two things in your mind through your daily life, I think you can't go far wrong. I shall just read a little bit more. Anyway, no negative thoughts. One good thing in my favour is I've always had the ability not to let things that I can't control affect me. It especially annoys Sarah. I don't believe I've always been like that, but 26 years in the Royal Navy gives you plenty of situations where you aren't in control. So no point moaning, although we still did. But you just have to crack on. I remember once when I was about 19 years old on board HMS Illustrious, or the old Lusty Bus, as we used to call her. We were cruising somewhere off Norway. It was freezing, blowing a hoolie, as we say, snow in the air, and about 3 o'clock in the morning. I was wedged into the gap between a couple of fire extinguisher lockers on 5 spot at the back of the ship, standing sentry on a helicopter doing a ground run, just burning and turning, burning and turning. It had been going for about an hour and a half already. I should have been relieved after an hour. I didn't dare move as the wind would find its way through the extremely inadequate foul weather clothing that we were given. My feet were blocks of ice, and frankly, I was feeling extremely sorry for myself. I ended up being out there for 3 hours as they'd forgotten about me, and they were all in the crew room with their feet up, drinking their nice hot cups of tea. At some point, I remember stopping feeling sorry for myself and thinking, fuck it, there's nothing I can do. Just think of something else. So I transported myself back to the year before when we were in a distinctly different part of the world. We were in what turned out to be a tour of the Far Eastern Australia. One of the best 7 months of my life. My brothers, or 2 of my brothers, are both a bit older than me. And I remember Tony and Ian had both joined the Navy, coming back from foreign parts with pictures of themselves in various sunny places with palm trees and a girl on their arm. That was one of the reasons I joined the Navy myself. I thought, I'm having some of that. Which was what that Far East trip turned out to be like. I was far from that trip now, but that ability to screen things out that I can't do anything about is going to be needed now. I've got cancer. I can't do anything about it at this minute, so it's not worth dwelling on it. Definitely not worth thinking about the radiation therapy, and probably not worth thinking about the op either. Time to get out and move this new greenhouse build on before it gets suspended for, I don't know how long, post the op. So there we go. Not quite the full chapter, but we'd be going till the doomsday if I kept reading there. I don't know if anybody has got any questions. So let me just read a couple of things there. Don't even do kissing anymore. Well, it's that 13 years marriage, isn't it? I just got in. I'm so excited. Oh, thank you, Nunya. That's a very nice thing to say. So there are quite a few stories in the book. It's not just about being ill or getting better or the garden. But there's lots of different stories that just sort of come back to the way I think nowadays and why I'm into gardening and things like that. So hopefully, if you purchase the book, then you will enjoy it. One thing I will say, I will ask, is if you do purchase the book, it'd be really fantastic if you put some sort of review online after you finished it. Good or bad, I've got broad shoulders, as you can see. I can take a bit of criticism if there is any. Oh, excellent, Nunya. Yes, good times in the senior service, good times and bad times. And we've met many a good American sailor in my time and had many a good chat with them. Absolutely hated it, like it. Well, I absolutely loved it. Sometimes I absolutely hated it, but sometimes I absolutely loved it. And the Gert 100 there, he will he will back me up. We've had some good times and bad times in the Navy, but mostly good times. You're welcome, AJ. So, are there any specific questions, or while we're here, any other specific questions? Oh, thanks very much, Happy Mac. I found writing the book very cathartic, and it's good to sort of talk. I've never minded talking about my feelings. So writing about how I felt was very good for me. Did the gardening come first, or when you determined this was your stress release? Well, in the book, I say, I'm not some high flying businessman, but I've got a semi stressful job as a senior project manager. Although actually today I've been promoted to head of sonar division, so a little bit more of a stressful job. And I've always found that getting out there and just thinking about weeding or deadheading your plants or looking at the beauty around you just immediately takes all the stress away and makes you feel happy, doesn't it? That's why we love gardening. So I think it was the gardening came first and then the stress relief. Finding out that it was a stress relief. But it makes me happy. So that's always going to relieve your stress, isn't it? So you didn't miss it, AJ. So there are two possible reasons why I got throat cancer. Number one, I was stupid enough to smoke when I was younger. And number two, there is a disease that most of us unfortunately pick up orally. And I can't exactly remember what it's called, but what is it? HPV. HPV. That is a cause of cancer, and unfortunately, a lot of us just pick it up as we go along. Yes, but kids are vaccinated now. That's Mrs. F behind me giving me a running commentary. See, she's always around giving me good advice. Right, Nunya, how many seeds do you start per plant? Too many, probably. Depends if I'm using big seeds, I will just put one. If I'm using blocks or anything, I'll just put one in per block. People always say put two, but as a rule, I find most things germinate. And for little seeds, I just spread them out, and then I'll thin them out to what I need them to be thinned out when they come up. Stay there. So there is my little salad bowl. I put a load of seeds in the other day. And as you can see, quite a few of the seeds have germinated. So I'll thin that out a little bit, but I'm going to use this as my cut bowl. So really, I'll just plant loads of seeds, and then they're cheap, aren't they? Right, where else we got? Hang on. That's what I was thinking. There we go. That was a wonderful. You're welcome, Everbee. At the end of the day, if it can help anybody going through any sort of painful time, then I've done my job. Again, the same as with my YouTube channel. This YouTube channel, the whole point is to be able to inspire people, help people, and if this book can inspire people to sort of get through the painful times and know that there's going to be an end to it, then that is thanks enough for me, and that'll be wonderful. I don't know whether Dr. Rigby's into gardening, but it would be a good idea, because he probably has a very stressful job and a very wonderful job helping people the way he does. Happy Matt, you should. If I have loads and loads of seeds, you've got to thin out some, but I always end up having too many plants planted all over the place. Fortunately, I've got quite a big garden now, so I don't have to always worry about thinning out too much. Thanks, Bucko, and that's most appreciated. Roy, how are you doing? So, as I said in my book, I've just always loved nature, whether it be running around in the woods or planting little things. Even when I was a teenager, I bought a greenhouse and planted melons and dug over the garden once I got going. It's just one of them things that I've always been into, and obviously getting the opportunity later on to be able to have a decent garden. I like creating things as well, and I think that's something about gardening that is a good thing. It helps you if you like creating things. You can't really go wrong. So yeah, so as I explain in the book, and as probably most of you have seen the video of having to remodel my greenhouse post whoever that grass was who grassed me up to the building control. I had to remodel the greenhouse, and a particularly not very nice time, right as I was going through the radiotherapy treatment. But as I said to everybody who I talked to, it's no point moaning about it. You just got to crack on. I could not do anything about it. The easiest thing to do was just to get on with it and change it. And now I'm really glad that I changed it, because I've still got the greenhouse and it is absolutely fantastic. And I'm going to start going in there over the next few days and starting to do some filming, and it's absolutely brilliant. So one thing I'll say to anybody, and I know we can all preach, and it's good, great commentary in hindsight or whatever, but there is no point moaning about things. Well, not much anyway. You just got to crack on and think about how you're going to solve what the problem is. Thank you, my wool mitten, and thank you, Nunya. Yes, yeah, we don't always have to spend loads of money, and again, that's that whole creation sort of process, isn't it? Is fantastic being able to create things, and if you can do it for as cheap as possible, why not? Why not? Indeed, this comes from my, I think my youth. My family never really had a lot of money, and then my family became a sort of single parent family, and we definitely didn't have any money. So you always had to sort of make do with what you could do with. Thank you, Mar Woolmitten. Again, do you start your seeds under lights? I start my seeds in my downstairs room, in a warm room, and then I stick them in another room that has a south-facing bay window. I don't have lights. They might get a little bit leggy to start with, but they will go in the greenhouse. And over the next couple of weeks, I'll be showing you guys that look at the videos again, how I start my seeds. I'm not a great believer. Again, it's the old money thing again, isn't it? I don't want to invest a load of money in lights, because really and truly, if we're planting our things in or around the right time, we shouldn't really need lights that much. I know peppers and tomatoes and chilies, etc., have a long growing season, and here in Nova Scotia, we don't have a long growing season. But even so, I can get away with starting them around now. I'm going to put tomato seeds in and chilies. I'll put them in this warm downstairs room. When they germinate, they'll go in this south-facing window, and then within a couple of weeks, I'm going to create some sort of mini greenhouse within my greenhouse, and they'll do all right. Just have to watch out for frosts. So just when the frost comes, I make sure I cover them a little bit more. But I don't use lights. Great if you can afford them, but I don't really think you need them. Who else we got here? And that, yes, very good. See, excellent, Nunya. Yeah. Facebook Marketplace and all those sorts of things. There's always bargains galore around the bazaars, isn't there? There's always someone trying to throw something away. Right, so I've got 4 more minutes to go, guys, before it's time for me to go and interact with my boy for the evening. I've had a hard day's work and a bit of fun with the lad, I think. Any more questions or any comments or anything like that? I think that's probably a no. Oh. So first question, Nanya. I got the all clear. Well, so I got the all clear after my operation, and then I got the all clear again after last January. No, so it was last March when I saw the oncologist and the surgeon again, and every 3 months they've been seeing. I've seen them since last March. So this is March now. So for the last year, and everything's okay so far. That's as far as I get for an all clear. And how many fruit trees do you have on your property? I have in the orchard. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 normal apple trees that grow up normally, 2 step over apple trees that I've planted, so they sort of grow horizontally about a foot or so above the ground, and I have 2 pear trees altogether. It is indeed, Happy Mac. Thank you, Karen. Do you show on CDITs? Do a show on CDITs one day. Yeah, that might be a bit X-rated, Gert 100. Might be a bit X-rated. We have some good old stories. But there we go. Thank you, Tallulah. Thank you very much. And the same to you. Right. I am going to close up now. Oh, hang on. Forward. Exactly, and it's going to be soon, and I'm going to be firing up, and I'm going to do a lot more live videos this year. Hopefully, I'm going to start trying to do some sort of live video once a week. I'm not sure how the format's going to be, whether it's going to be obviously going to be a bit of question and answer, but we'll see how it goes. But all the same, I like this interaction. This is really good. So I'm definitely going to be doing some more. But with all that said, metal fire pit. Ooh, there's an idea. Not sure I've got the room for that. Thank you, Nanya. Indeed, Abraday Daily. Well, anyway, I'm going to use my old naval name now and finish. Hello, Tina. Finish up the video now with my name is Charlie Farley, and good night. See you later, bucko. Catch up with you one day, defo.